In today's story, a man rides his bicycle to a business meeting and gets laughed at by the CEO. They said he looked like a delivery guy, that he couldn't possibly afford to invest, that he was wasting their time. But when they discovered who he really was, they realized they'd just insulted the only person who could save their company. This is a story about arrogance, about assumptions, and about why you should never judge an investor by the vehicle they arrive in. Stay until the end. When they find out the truth, devastating. In Silicon Valley, there was a man named Thomas Chen, 62 years old, Asian American, quiet demeanor, simple clothes. And every morning he rode his bicycle to work. Not an expensive racing bike, not an electric bike, just a regular bicycle he'd owned for 15 years. People who didn't know Thomas thought he was eccentric or cheap, or maybe just couldn't afford a car. But Thomas Chen was worth $3.7 billion. He'd made his fortune in the 1990s as one of the early investors in tech companies that became household names: Google, Amazon, Tesla, Netflix. Thomas had invested in all of them when they were just ideas in garages. He had what people in Silicon Valley called the golden touch. If Thomas Chen invested in your company, you were going to succeed. But Thomas was selective, very selective. Out of hundreds of pitches he heard every year, he invested in maybe 3 or 4. And he had a very specific philosophy about investing. "I don't invest in companies," he always said. "I invest in people, and character matters more than credentials." Thomas had a unique way of evaluating founders. He didn't just look at their pitch decks or their financial projections. He watched how they treated people: receptionists, assistants, waiters, janitors. Because Thomas believed that how you treat people who can't do anything for you reveals who you really are. And today, Thomas was riding his bicycle to a meeting at a startup called Innovate Tech. They'd been trying to get a meeting with him for 6 months. They'd sent emails, made calls, reached out through mutual connections. Finally, Thomas had agreed to meet. Innovate Tech was a promising AI company, good technology, strong potential, but they were running out of money, fast. They needed $20 million to make it to their next milestone, and Thomas Chen was their last hope. They just didn't know it yet.
Innovate Tech's office was in a trendy building in San Francisco. Modern design, glass walls, exposed brick, the kind of startup space that looked impressive but cost a fortune in rent. At the reception desk sat a young woman named Ashley, 23 years old, recently hired, still learning the ropes. At 2:45 p.m., she saw someone through the glass doors. A man on a bicycle. He was wearing khaki pants, a plain button-up shirt, and sneakers. His hair was slightly messy from the ride. He locked his bicycle to a rack outside and walked toward the entrance carrying a worn leather messenger bag. Ashley watched him approach with mild confusion. The man walked in and approached her desk. "Good afternoon," he said politely. "I have a 3 o'clock meeting with Mr. Brennan." Ashley looked at her computer. "Name?" "Thomas Chen." Ashley's eyes widened slightly. "Mr. Chen, the investor?" "Yes," Thomas said. Ashley looked him up and down, clearly skeptical. She'd been told that Thomas Chen was coming, a billionaire investor, someone the CEO had been desperately trying to meet. She'd expected a man in an expensive suit, arriving in a luxury car, with an entourage. Not this. "Can I see some ID?" Ashley asked. Thomas pulled out his driver's license and handed it to her. Ashley examined it. It was him. But still, "You came on a bicycle?" Ashley asked, unable to hide her surprise. "I did," Thomas said calmly. "Oh, okay. Let me call up to Mr. Brennan's office." She picked up the phone and dialed. "Hi, it's Ashley at reception. There's someone here who says he's Thomas Chen for the 3 o'clock, but," she lowered her voice, "he came on a bicycle. Are you sure this is the right person?" Thomas could hear the muffled response on the other end. Ashley hung up. "Someone will be down in a moment." "Thank you," Thomas said. He sat in one of the modern chairs in the waiting area. A few minutes later, the elevator opened and a man in his early 30s emerged. This was Derek Brennan, CEO of Innovate Tech. Stanford MBA, former consultant at McKinsey, designer suit, expensive watch, everything about him screamed Silicon Valley success story. Derek looked around the reception area. His eyes landed on Thomas. Derek walked over to Ashley. "Where's Thomas Chen?" Ashley pointed at Thomas. Derek's face registered confusion, then disappointment, then barely concealed disdain. He walked over to Thomas. "Mr. Chen? Mr. Chen? The investor?" "Yes," Thomas said. Derek shook his hand limply. "That's me. I have to say I was expecting something different." "Most people are," Thomas said mildly. Derek glanced at the bicycle visible through the window. You rode a bike here?" "I did. It's good exercise and better for the environment." "Right," Derek said. "Well, I guess we should head up." They got in the elevator. Derek didn't make small talk. He was too busy texting on his phone. When they reached the top floor, Derek led Thomas to a conference room. Inside were 3 other people. "This is my co-founder and CTO, Jason," Derek said, pointing to a man in his late 20s, "our CFO, Melissa, and our VP of Product, Ryan." Everyone shook hands, though Thomas noticed they all seemed confused by his appearance. Derek gestured to a chair. "Please have a seat." Thomas sat. Derek didn't waste time. "So, Mr. Chen, we've been trying to get a meeting with you for months. We're building revolutionary AI technology that's going to transform how businesses operate." Thomas listened attentively. "We've raised $15 million to date. We're now seeking an additional $20 million to scale." He clicked a remote, and a sleek presentation appeared on the screen. For the next 30 minutes, Derek walked through their pitch. The technology was impressive. Thomas had to admit that. But he was watching something else. He was watching Derek. The way Derek interrupted Jason when he tried to add technical details. The way Derek dismissed a question Melissa raised about burn rate. The way Derek's entire demeanor was one of arrogance rather than collaboration. Finally, Derek finished. "So, Mr. Chen, what do you think?" Thomas was quiet for a moment. "Your technology is interesting." "Interesting?" Derek said. "It's revolutionary." "Perhaps," Thomas said. "Can I ask you a few questions?" "Of course." "What's your customer retention rate?" Derek hesitated. "We're still in early stages, so—" "What's the rate?" Thomas pressed gently. 63%, Melissa said. Derek shot her a look. "And your unit economics?" Thomas asked. "We're focused on growth right now," Derek said. "Profitability comes later." "That's a philosophy, not a business model." Derek's jaw tightened. "With all due respect, Mr. Chen, the companies you invested in 20 years ago were different. Today's market requires aggressive growth. We need to move fast and scale quickly." "I see," Thomas said. He stood up. "Thank you for your time." Derek blinked. "Wait, that's it? Don't you want to discuss terms?" "I don't think we're a good fit," Thomas said politely. "Not a good fit?" Derek said, his voice rising. "We're one of the hottest AI companies in the Valley. We have dozens of VCs interested in us." "Then you should work with them. Thank you again for the meeting." He picked up his messenger bag and walked toward the door. Derek followed him into the hallway. "Mr. Chen, wait. I think there might be a misunderstanding." "There's no misunderstanding. I'm just not interested in investing." Derek's face flushed. "Is it because I came on a bicycle? Because that seems pretty judgmental for someone who rides a bike himself." Thomas stopped and turned. "Excuse me?" "Nothing," Derek said quickly. But Thomas had heard it. "Good luck with your company, Mr. Brennan." He walked to the elevator and left.
After Thomas left, Derek returned to the conference room. Jason, Melissa, and Ryan looked at him expectantly. "Well, that was a waste of time," Derek said, throwing himself into a chair. "What happened?" Melissa asked. He wasn't interested, asked a bunch of questions, and then just left. Jason frowned. "Did he say why?" "No, but honestly, I'm not surprised. The guy showed up on a bicycle wearing clothes from Target. He's clearly past his prime. His investing days are over." Melissa pulled out her laptop. "Derek, let me look something up." She typed rapidly. Her face went pale. "Oh no," she whispered. "What?" Derek asked. Melissa turned her laptop around. On the screen was an article from TechCrunch dated 3 days ago. Thomas Chen closes $500 million fund, plans aggressive investment in AI startups. Derek leaned forward and read. The article detailed how Thomas Chen had just raised a new fund specifically focused on AI companies. He was planning to make several large investments over the next year. The exact amount Innovate Tech needed, $20 million. And buried in the article was this quote from Thomas: "I'm looking for AI companies with strong fundamentals and, more importantly, strong leadership with character and vision." Derek's face drained of color. "We just met with Thomas Chen," Jason said slowly. "The Thomas Chen, the guy who made early bets on Google and Tesla. And you insulted him?" "I didn't insult him," Derek said defensively. "You absolutely did," Melissa said. "I saw how you looked at him when he walked in. We all did." Ryan spoke up. "Derek, do you realize what this means? We're 2 months from running out of money. We've been rejected by 12 other VCs. Thomas Chen was our last shot." "Then we'll find someone else," Derek said. "There is no one else," Melissa said, her voice rising. "Nobody wants to invest in us. Our burn rate is too high. Our retention is too low. And now you've pissed off the one person who might have taken a chance on us." Derek stood up. "Fine, I'll call him. I'll apologize. I'll get him to come back." Melissa shook her head. "Do you know Thomas Chen's reputation? He's famous for one thing. If you disrespect him or show him you lack character, you get one chance, and that's it. You never get a second meeting." "That's a rumor," Derek said. "It's not," Jason said. "I've read interviews with him. He talks about it. He says character is non-negotiable, and we just failed his test." The room fell silent. Derek pulled out his phone and tried calling Thomas's office. It went to voicemail. He tried texting the assistant who'd helped schedule the meeting. No response. "Damn it," Derek said. Later that evening, Derek held an emergency board meeting. The 3 other board members, all early investors, were not happy. "You insulted Thomas Chen?" one of them said, incredulous. "Do you have any idea?" "I didn't insult him," Derek insisted. I questioned his approach." "You questioned the approach of a man who's made billions in early-stage investing? That's not questioning, that's arrogance." "We need to fix this," the third board member said. "Without his investment, we're done. We have 8 weeks of runway left." "I know, I'll fix it." But he had no idea how.
That same evening, Thomas Chen was at home. His house was nice, but not ostentatious, comfortable, filled with books and art. He lived alone. His wife had passed away 5 years ago. His children were grown and lived in other cities. He was preparing dinner, simple stir-fry, when his phone rang. It was his longtime friend and fellow investor, Margaret Wu. "Thomas, I heard you met with Innovate Tech today." "Word travels fast," Thomas said. "Small Valley," Margaret said. "How did it go?" "Not well." "I heard. Derek Brennan called me 10 minutes ago asking if I could help him get a second meeting with you." Thomas was quiet. "Thomas, I know you have your principles," Margaret said, "but Innovate Tech's technology really is impressive, and the team, minus Derek's ego, is solid." "I don't invest in egos," Thomas said. "I know, but what if Derek learned from this? What if this was a wake-up call?" Thomas thought about it. "Did he sound humbled when he called you?" Margaret paused. "He sounded desperate." "Not the same thing," Thomas said.
Give him another chance, Margaret said. Not for him, for the team. Jason is brilliant. Melissa is one of the best CFOs I've seen. They deserve better than to have their company fail because their CEO is immature. Thomas was silent for a long moment. "I'll think about it," he finally said. The next morning, Thomas did something unusual. He went back to Innovate Tech. But he didn't go to the office. He went to the building's parking garage and waited. At 7:15 a.m., he saw Jason arrive, alone, carrying a coffee. Thomas approached him. "Jason, I'm Thomas Chen. We met yesterday." Jason's eyes widened. "Mr. Chen, what are you doing here?" "I wanted to talk to you. Do you have a few minutes?" "Of course," Jason said, bewildered. They sat on a bench outside the building. "Tell me about the company, not the pitch, the reality." Jason hesitated. Then he started talking. He talked about the technology they'd built, the challenges they were facing, the pressure of running out of money, and he talked about Derek. "He's brilliant in a lot of ways," Jason said carefully, "but he's also young. He thinks success means looking successful, acting confident, never showing weakness." "And what do you think?" Thomas asked. "I think success means building something that matters," Jason said. "Something that helps people, something we can be proud of." Thomas nodded. "Why do you stay?" "Because the technology we're building is important," Jason said. "And because Melissa and Ryan and the rest of the team are like family. We've been working together for 3 years. I'm not going to abandon them just because our CEO has some maturing to do." Thomas smiled. "You're a good person, Jason." "Thank you, sir." Thomas stood up. "I'm still not investing in your company. Not yet. But I want you to know it's not because of the technology or the team. It's because leadership matters. And until Derek learns that, Innovate Tech will struggle." Jason nodded. "I understand." Thomas handed him a card. "If anything changes, call me directly." "Thank you, Mr. Chen." Thomas got on his bicycle and rode away.
2 weeks later, Innovate Tech was in crisis mode. They'd been rejected by 3 more VCs. Their burn rate was accelerating. Key employees were starting to update their LinkedIn profiles. Derek called another all-hands meeting. The entire company, all 37 employees, gathered in the main area. Derek stood in front of them. "I need to be honest with you all," Derek said. "We're in a difficult position financially. We have about 6 weeks of runway left." Murmurs rippled through the crowd. "But," Derek continued, "I'm working on several deals. We're going to get through this." After the meeting, several employees cornered Jason, Melissa, and Ryan. "Is it really that bad?" one engineer asked. "It's worse," Melissa said quietly. "If we don't get funding in the next month, we're done." "What about Thomas Chen?" another employee asked. "I heard Derek met with him." Jason and Melissa exchanged glances. "That didn't work out," Jason said diplomatically. "Why not?" Jason didn't answer, but one of the junior employees who'd been in the reception area the day of the meeting spoke up. "Because Derek treated him like garbage," she said. "I saw the whole thing. Mr. Chen showed up on a bicycle, and Derek acted like he was embarrassed to be seen with him." The room went silent. "Are you serious?" someone said. "Dead serious. And now we're all going to lose our jobs because our CEO was too arrogant to show respect to a billionaire investor." The murmurs turned to angry whispers. That night, Melissa, Jason, and Ryan had an emergency meeting at a coffee shop. "We need to do something," Melissa said. "We can't let the company die because of Derek's ego." "What can we do?" Ryan asked. "He's the CEO." "We go around him," Jason said. "We call Thomas Chen directly. We apologize. We ask for a second chance." "Will it work?" Melissa asked. "Probably not, but we have to try." The next morning, Jason used the card Thomas had given him. He called Thomas's personal number. Thomas answered on the second ring. "Jason?" "Mr. Chen, I'm sorry to bother you, but I need to ask you something." "Go ahead." "Would you consider meeting with us again? Not Derek, just me, Melissa, and Ryan. We want to show you who we really are, what this company could be with the right leadership." Thomas was quiet for a moment. "Are you talking about removing Derek as CEO?" "We're talking about doing whatever it takes to save this company and the people who work here, including having difficult conversations about leadership." "I see. All right. Come to my office tomorrow at 2 p.m., all of you." "Thank you, Mr. Chen. Thank you so much."
The next day, Jason, Melissa, and Ryan went to Thomas Chen's office. It was in a modest building in Palo Alto, not flashy, not trying to impress anyone. Thomas greeted them warmly and led them to a conference room. "Before we start," Thomas said, "I want to tell you something about why I ride a bicycle." The three of them listened. "When I was young, I was poor," Thomas began. "My parents were immigrants. We had nothing. I worked my way through college, started my first company with $5,000 I'd saved." He paused. "And when that company sold and I made my first $1 million, I bought an expensive car, a big house, all the things I thought successful people were supposed to have." "What happened?" Melissa asked. "I was miserable," Thomas said, "because I was trying to be someone I wasn't. I was trying to prove something, to show the world I'd made it." He smiled. "And then one day I was stuck in traffic in my $200,000 car, and I saw a man on a bicycle ride past me. He was smiling, free, and I thought, that guy looks happier than I feel." "So you started riding a bike?" Jason said. "I started riding a bike," Thomas confirmed, "and I realized something. Real wealth isn't about what you own, it's about freedom. It's about living according to your values. It's about not needing to prove anything to anyone." He leaned forward. "And that's why I test people. When I meet with founders, I'm not just evaluating their business, I'm evaluating their character. Because I've learned that brilliant people with bad character build companies that ultimately fail, but good people with decent ideas can build something that lasts." "Derek failed your test," Ryan said quietly. "He did, not because of how he treated me, but because of what it revealed about how he sees the world. He judges people by their appearance, by their status symbols, and that kind of thinking creates toxic cultures." "We know, and we're trying to fix it." Thomas nodded. "Tell me your plan." For the next hour, they laid out a proposal. They would approach Derek with an ultimatum: step down as CEO and become Chief Strategy Officer, or they would resign and take key employees with them. They would install Jason as CEO, Melissa would remain CFO, Ryan would stay as VP of Product, and they would implement a values-driven culture focused on respect, collaboration, and long-term thinking. Thomas listened carefully. When they finished, he said, "If you do this, if you successfully make this transition, I'll invest $25 million. Not $20 million, 25. Their eyes widened. "But," Thomas continued, "I have conditions. 1. Derek must genuinely understand why he failed, not just accept the demotion. 2. You must implement mandatory training on respect and character for all employees. 3. I want to see every single person in your company, from the receptionist to the CTO, treated with equal dignity." "Done," Jason said immediately. "And one more thing," Thomas said. "I want to be actively involved, not just a check writer, a mentor, a board member, someone who helps you build the right kind of company." "We'd be honored," Melissa said. They shook hands. The next day, Jason, Melissa, and Ryan confronted Derek. It didn't go well at first. Derek was defensive, angry. He felt betrayed. But then Melissa showed him the bank account. "We have 4 weeks left," she said. "Thomas Chen is offering $25 million, but only if you step down as CEO." Derek stared at her. "You went to him behind my back?" "We went to save this company," Jason said, "and we're giving you a choice.
Step down gracefully and stay on as Chief Strategy Officer, or refuse and we walk and we take half the team with us. Either way, this company is restructuring." Derek looked at the three of them. He'd never seen them so united, so determined. "Why?" Derek asked, his voice breaking. "Why are you doing this?" "Because you're not ready to lead," Jason said gently. "You're brilliant, you're driven, but you judge people by what they have instead of who they are, and that's not the kind of leader we want to work for." Derek sat down heavily. For the first time since they'd known him, he looked vulnerable. "I screwed up, didn't I?" he said quietly. "Yes," Melissa said, "but you can learn from it." Derek looked up. "Will Thomas really invest if I step down?" "He will," Jason said. "But Derek, this isn't just about the money. This is about becoming a better person, a better leader." Derek nodded slowly. "Okay, I'll do it. I'll step down." 3 months later, Innovate Tech had transformed. Jason was CEO. Derek had stepped into a strategic role and, surprisingly, was thriving in it. Thomas Chen was an active board member, mentoring the team, and the company culture had completely changed. They'd implemented Thomas's conditions: training on respect, equal treatment for everyone, focus on character. The receptionist, Ashley, who'd been the first to judge Thomas, had gone through the training. She'd written Thomas a personal apology letter. Thomas had responded with a note thanking her for her growth and encouraging her to keep learning. One afternoon, Thomas rode his bicycle to the office for a board meeting. Ashley saw him coming and rushed to hold the door open. "Good afternoon, Mr. Chen," she said warmly. "It's great to see you." "Thank you, Ashley. How are you?" "I'm really good." "And Mr. Chen, thank you for giving us all a second chance." Thomas smiled. "Everyone deserves a chance to grow, including me." At the board meeting, Jason presented impressive numbers. Revenue was up. Customer retention was at 89%. They just signed a major enterprise client. "You've done exceptional work," Thomas said. "We had a good teacher," Jason said. After the meeting, Derek approached Thomas. "Mr. Chen, can I talk to you for a moment?" "Of course." They stepped outside. "I want to apologize," Derek said, "for how I treated you, for how I judged you. I was an arrogant kid who thought success meant looking successful." "And now?" asked Thomas. "Now I understand that success means building something meaningful, with good people, in the right way." Thomas nodded. "You've grown a lot, Derek. I'm proud of you." Derek's eyes filled with tears. "Thank you for not giving up on us." "I didn't invest in Innovate Tech because of your technology. I invested because of people like Jason, Melissa, and Ryan who were willing to fight for what was right, and because of you for being willing to change." They shook hands. As Thomas rode his bicycle home that evening, he thought about the young founders he'd met over the years. Some had learned, some hadn't, but the ones who did, the ones who understood that character mattered more than appearances, those were the ones who built companies that lasted and changed the world. 5 years later, Innovate Tech went public. The IPO valued the company at $2.7 billion. Jason rang the opening bell at NASDAQ. Melissa and Ryan stood beside him. And Derek, now the company's chief strategy officer, watched with genuine pride. Thomas Chen's $25 million investment had turned into $850 million. But for Thomas, the real return wasn't financial. It was watching a group of founders learn what real leadership looked like. It was seeing Ashley, the receptionist, grow into a respected HR manager who made sure every employee felt valued. It was witnessing Derek transform from an arrogant CEO into a thoughtful strategist who mentored younger founders. At the IPO celebration, a journalist asked Thomas his secret. "How do you always know which companies to invest in?" Thomas smiled. "I don't invest in companies.
I invest in character. Because technology changes, markets change, but character, that's what determines whether a company becomes great. He paused. And you can always tell someone's character by how they treat people who can't do anything for them. The journalist asked one more question. Is it true you still ride your bicycle everywhere? Every day, Thomas said. It reminds me of what matters: freedom, health, the environment, living according to your values. Even though you're a billionaire? Especially because I'm a billionaire. Because when you have everything, the only thing left that matters is who you are. And that's a lesson worth remembering. Whether you're a founder building a company, an investor evaluating a deal, or just a person trying to live a good life, character matters. More than credentials, more than appearances, more than status symbols. That's what Thomas Chen taught them. And that's what they'll never forget. Never judge an investor by their bicycle, because the person you dismiss today might be the billionaire who could change your life tomorrow. Real wealth isn't about what you drive, it's about who you are. It's about living according to your values, and it's about treating everyone with respect, regardless of how they arrive. That's what Thomas Chen understood, and that's what we all need to learn.